Leonard Shelby is a man who has a short-term memory loss issue after getting injured by getting struck while confronting two people who were attacking his wife. Even though Leonard was able to kill one of those people, the other one escaped. The last thing Leonard remembers properly is his wife dying. Now Leonard's purpose of life is killing the second attacker of his wife. Leonard wakes up in a room at Discount Inn. After he checks everything in the room, he gets a phone call. Leonard tells the caller that he suffers from anterograde amnesia, a condition which prevents him from creating new memories. Leonard has a system of writing notes about important things happening to him to know about it after he loses his memory again. Leonard has tattoos of clues he found during his investigation, which includes the tattoo saying John G. raped and murdered my wife as a permanent method of not losing notes. To understand his condition properly, he tells the story of Sammy Jankis. Leonard was an insurance investigator, and he investigated Sammy. After an accident, Sammy started suffering from the same memory problem Leonard now has. Leonard investigated, and after some medical tests, he determined that Sammy's condition was not due to the accident, but a mental one. Sammy's claim was denied. Mrs. Jankis talked about this to Leonard, and he gave her false hope of Sammy's recovery. She made Sammy inject her with the medicine for diabetes, continuously hoping he would recover as she would die due to the continuous use of the medicine. Unfortunately, Sammy didn't recover and Mrs. Jankis died. After that, Sammy went to a mental hospital. The caller reminds Leonard about how the police never believed Leonard's story of a second attacker. The caller says he is a police officer and provides additional clues like the attacker was a drug dealer and Leonard tattoos it. He also says that the attacker is Jimmy Grants and he has set up a meeting with Jimmy. Then they agree to meet in the motel lobby. In the lobby, Leonard meets the officer whose name is Gamble. Gamble tells Leonard to call him Teddy as he is undercover. Leonard takes the photo of Teddy and writes the name Teddy on it. Teddy then sends Leonard to an abandoned building where he can meet Jimmy. When Jimmy arrives, he recognizes Leonard as the man with memory problem. Leonard then beats Jimmy and tries to kill him. Jimmy begs for his life and tells Leonard that there is $200,000 in the trunk of his car, which is the payment of the drugs that Teddy should have brought to the meeting, and Leonard can have it. Leonard then strangles Jimmy. Jimmy, after some resistance, chokes and stops moving. Leonard takes a photo of his body and starts putting on his clothes. While Leonard drags Jimmy into the basement, he hears Jimmy whispering Sammy before dying. Leonard understands that if Jimmy knew about Sammy, then he was not his wife's killer, as the only way of Jimmy knowing about Sammy is Leonard telling him. Teddy arrives there, and Leonard questions him about Jimmy, and Teddy accepts that Jimmy Grants was a drug dealer who did not have anything to do with his wife's killing. Teddy also confesses that he tricked Leonard into killing Jimmy for the money he has. Teddy also tells Leonard that his wife survived the attack and Sammy Jankis was a fraud who was not even married, and it was Leonard's wife who was diabetic and died as she made Leonard use the medicine continuously. Teddy tells that he was the officer who investigated his wife's case, and he helped him track down and kill the real John G. more than a year ago. Teddy says that he took the picture of a happy Leonard right after John G. was dead. Leonard forgot about killing John G. and started searching for him again. Teddy tells Leonard that there are a lot of John G.S., including himself, because his full name is John Edward Gamble, and his mother calls him Teddy. Leonard is angry because Teddy used him for his own purposes, and before he forgets, he decides to lie to himself and lead him to kill Teddy. He writes behind Teddy's photo, "Don't believe his lies," and notes Teddy's license plate number as John G's. Leonard then leaves his pickup truck near the building and drives away in Jimmy's car. After forgetting what just happened, Leonard finds a tattoo parlor and tattoos the license plate number SG137IU onto his leg. Teddy sees Jimmy's car parked outside the parlor and comes in. He tries to get Leonard out of the town. Leonard sees what he wrote on the back of Teddy's pictures and decides to leave without him. Leonard then finds a note from someone named Natalie in the pocket of Jimmy's suit coat, which he is now wearing, saying to come to Ferdy's bar. Not realizing the note is for Jimmy, Leonard goes to meet Natalie. After reaching Ferdy's bar, he meets Natalie and tells her about his memory problem. Natalie tests him and confirms that he is telling the truth. Natalie then takes him to her house. He tells her about what happened to his wife and his need for revenge. After some time, Natalie came back home after she was harassed by a man named Dodd, who said that she was behind Jimmy's disappearance. She then argues with Leonard and decides to trick him to handle Dodd. Leonard then leaves to look for Dodd. He then sees Teddy when he gets into the car. Teddy warns Leonard not to believe her. But after seeing the note saying, "Don't believe his lie about Teddy," he does not believe him. But he listens to the advice of Teddy to go to the discount inn. Leonard then calls an escort. When the escort arrives, Leonard tells her to scatter his wife's belongings in the room, and when he sleeps, she should smack the door. She does this, and when Leonard wakes, he asks her to leave. He then takes the belongings of his wife to another place and burns them. In the next morning, while he was driving, Dodd finds him and attacks him. He escapes Dodd, and after reading the note about him from Natalie, he goes to Dodd's motel room and hides there. When Dodd returns, Leonard beats him and ties him up. Leonard calls Teddy after reading his name in the note. Teddy reaches there, and they escape by putting Dodd on gunpoint. He then reaches Natalie's house and stays there for the night. In the morning, Natalie decides to return the favor of getting rid of Dodd and agrees to trace the license plate number tattooed on Leonard's leg. After some time, Natalie traces the license plate number, which is actually Teddy's, and she gives him the address of an abandoned building, which happens to be the place where Leonard killed Jimmy. Leonard takes it and goes back to his motel room, and he then concludes Teddy is John Edward Gamble, the killer of his wife, after putting together all the clues. He then meets Teddy and they go to the abandoned building. Then Leonard shoots Teddy in the head before Teddy could reveal the truth.